Rockford Zone for Classic Rock 96.7 The Eagle. Good morning, I'm Double T, and it's a little insight to the world of the concert industry. I'm calling it Backstage Pass. Joining me, my special guest, Don Kronberg from NiteLite Promotions. We've had this crazy weather the past few weeks. The concert business, it's something you got to deal with, and I'm sure you've had some strange occurrences. Got a funny story you could share with me?
Cheap Trick. Saturday, November 21st, 2015, the night before, we get our first snowstorm of the year, and it turns out to be an epic snowstorm, dumping 12 to 14 inches of wet, sloppy snow throughout the entire Rockford and Chicagoland area. I knew I was going to have a really tough day, right away that morning. I woke up. I decided there's no way I could make the ride from Palatine to Rockford. So I have a guy that works for me as a promoter rep. He's also from the area. Somehow his SUV made it through the snowstorm and snow-covered roads of Interstate 90. I said, is my sound and lighting company there? And he goes, yeah, of course they are, because they're a locally based company. I'm like, okay, well, we're good. What's the word on the band? And he was like, well, I think Rick Nielsen and Dax Nielsen somehow made it in, but the other two band members chose to take a flight out in the morning rather than the night before. They weren't in. I kept getting updates. They were scheduled to be on like an 11 a.m. flight to O'Hare. That got canceled. I get a call from their tour manager that they're scheduled to come in at like 4 o'clock. That flight got canceled. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to sweat a little bit. So we open up the doors to the show at like 6 o'clock in the evening, and been a sold-out show for 2 months. I've got fans coming from as far away as Japan, and almost every city in the United States is represented. That's how popular a Cheap Trick show is in their hometown of Rockford, Illinois. They've finally gotten a flight, and they're due to land at O'Hare Airport at 8 o'clock. And I'm like, okay, that's not too bad. It takes about an hour to get from O'Hare to Rockford. Let's say they get there at 9:30. We're on by 10 o'clock. And then the tour manager says, no, we're landing at Midway. And I'm like, you're landing at Midway?
Oh.
I'm like, it's like over 2 hours from Rockford on a good day. Miles Nielsen is the opening act that night. He was scheduled to play like 30 or 45-minute set. So he goes on. I think he comes off stage. My promoter rep, Tommy, talks to him and says, hey, listen, man, you got to go back on. The band's not here yet. We think there's going to be a long delay. So Miles ended up going back on. And I know you were at the show.
I remember Miles and the band said goodnight, thank you very much. We all went out to the lobby to get beverages and whatnot. And then a few minutes later, we hear him playing again. And we were like, well, that's strange. Miles got an encore as an opening act. Well, it is his dad. Maybe he was nice. Well, then he played another song and another song. And we're like, well, I guess they're playing an extended set. And then after he was done, someone came out and announced that the band was delayed, and that's why Miles had played a longer set, but they would be there. It ended up being a long night, though, that's for sure.
The band gets there at 10. I'm like, oh, good. We're good to go. They called me back, and they're like, well, actually, we're not good to go. If you know Robin Zander's pre-show routine, Robin is a consummate professional, and he needs at least 45 minutes to warm up. And I believe he warmed up till about 10:45. I think that's when they went on, and I believe they played till just after midnight. The show went off great. The show itself was fantastic. Everybody thinks that a promoter has a great job.
Well, you know what? At least the show happened, because there's times where it doesn't. So that's good news right there.
A couple years ago, I was with the band in Waukegan, and Robin and I were talking, and I said, hey, remember the last Rockford show? And he looked at me. I said, remember it was the epic snowstorm? And he goes, how could I forget that show? And I said, well, why didn't you just call me at some point to say, hey, listen, we're going to reschedule the show? I'm not quoting him exactly, but it was something along the lines of, are you kidding me? You think I'm going to miss my hometown show in front of my hometown audience? And I think it was literally under 5 shows in their entire career that they had to cancel. No matter what is thrown at them, they are determined to get the show in. If they're sick and not feeling great, somehow they muster the courage to do it. I walked away that night going, wow, I'm even more impressed, and I hope that everybody out there has more appreciation for a band.
What a great story. Kind of a nightmare for you, but great for the fans of Rockford, that's for sure. Don Kronberg from NiteLite Promotions. It's Backstage Pass, an inside look at the concert industry on Rockford Zone for Classic Rock 96.7 The Eagle.